Hello and welcome to A Few Minutes With. Today I'm talking to Leah Browning-Ziskie, owner of Lumber and Light in the Washington, D.C. area. Leah's going to talk to me about storytelling through design. Leah, welcome to A Few Minutes With. Tell me why it's important to include some storytelling in restaurant design.
Hi, Amanda. Um, I think that storytelling is really the root and the key to great design. Um, I think when you're trying to create an environment that is really authentic and resonates with guests and diners, then having that real and rich story that you can refer back to in your design is really critical, and it's more important almost than how beautiful the design might be, but whether or not the design feels genuine and authentic to the story.
And when you're incorporating storytelling in a restaurant's design layer, do you do that in some very obvious and also some subtle ways, or do you have a preference?
The real art form is when you're able to weave together a bunch of pieces a little bit more. Some maybe with the art that you're using within the space, some kind of a combination of authentic materials and making it feel a little bit more like it's somebody's home that's been put together over time, and feels very real instead of a movie set, or something where everything is sort of installed at once. You kind of want that feeling of the owner built built on it over time, and it feels very real.
Leah, you and I met several years ago at Farmers and Distillers in Washington, D.C., and I knew there were a lot of storytelling elements embedded there. Do you have any examples from your work of that restaurant or the many others you've worked on?
Yeah, I do. That one's a really great example of we did a very dramatic, large scale mural at that location. But it was fun because we worked with an incredible artist on it, and I don't think in that case the mural was totally on the nose. It was kind of a wacky history of distilling over time, that was very whimsical and kind of took a lot of liberties um, with the storytelling, I guess, throughout it. It was fun and fanciful, and um, I think really interesting in the space. Um, and then did create this really neat kind of backdrop behind everything else where people could slowly discover little Easter eggs in it, like little hidden moments, depending on where they were sitting, because it was such a big mural kind of across the whole back of the restaurant where different things were happening in each section.
And Leah, you mentioned Easter eggs. Do you include some little things like that too, that aren't necessarily meant to be noticed the first time a guest's at the restaurant, or maybe even the second or third, but then they notice that and it gives them a little jolt of surprise and connection with the restaurant and the story behind it?
Yeah, so I'll definitely give credit to one of my big clients for that. I think that's where we do the most Easter egg finding with my client Founding Farmers. They love incorporating whimsy into the spaces, artwork, whimsy, Easter eggs. So any of those times that you can go into a space and discover something new every single time, then there's that notion that you're going to have a little moment of joy, or you might go back to the table and tell other guests, but it creates a little bit more of that lasting impression, that leads to hopefully a better experience, more return guests, um, and a richer storytelling experience.
Can you go too far with the storytelling in design layer?
Yes, I think you can. Um, One of the conversations that I often have um, with some of my clients is about that and being too literal, I think. For me as a designer, I think that the storytelling of design should be a little bit intuitive and subtle, and be something that kind of that you just feel. You might not be aware of it, but you feel it as you walk into the space or you navigate through it. So I really struggle with anything that's too in your face, that has a lot of words, for example. So I have a lot of back and forth when it comes to kind of communicating messages of the brand, because sometimes there are a lot of stories that clients will want to tell within a space that are important to them, and they want their guests to know about it. So there's that balance of how do you tell them all the wonderful things that your client is doing, and at the same time not create, a book of just words everywhere.
Well, just finally, Leah, are there challenges with storytelling through design?
Yeah, I think that there's lots of challenges. The One of the biggest ones, probably, especially now, well, probably always, but even more so now, is just the cost of materials. I really strongly believe in using authentic materials whenever possible. Quality wood, great lighting, stone, things that make people feel very comfortable in a space. And as time is going on, the price of everything is going up and up. And so materials end up costing too much, and they get replaced with cheaper materials that don't feel the same. And it's one of those things when I said that design should give you this like intuitive reaction when you walk into a space where you just feel good. Um, when people replace wood with like a vinyl that looks like wood, our brains kind of know it, even if it sort of looks the same. We don't have the same emotional response to it. We don't feel comfort the same way. Same thing with cheaper lighting, with, a fake stone instead of real stone. Sometimes you can get away with it, thoughtfully and carefully, but it is really hard to find ways to create those really warm experiences and authentic experiences without being able to get to that same level of quality and kind of craftsmanship.